All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. My name's Emily Sprager. I'm an academic trainer in the Center for Teaching and Learning. And I'm very thrilled to have some of my colleagues here to present today. Alex Plant, June Kim, librarians here through our NU and NCU students, serving them as well too. So a couple of very brief housekeeping items, and then I'm going to kick it over to our presenters so they can dive into today's webinar. We are recording our webinar. As always, we will post it in our CTL Webinars Resource Center. If you do want to see the scrolling subtitles of your Zoom, please hover over the bottom of your Zoom, hit the CC option and hit show subtitle. If that is a distraction to you, you're more than welcome to hide them as well. We absolutely encourage conversation in the chat and posting any questions that you may have in the Q&A, and we'll get to those as time permits. Without further ado, I am going to pass this over to June Kim to kick us off with getting your research started.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you. So welcome to this webinar, Getting Your Research Started, Working with the Library. So my name is June Kim, and I'm a reference and instruction librarian here at now National University. And Alex?
Yeah, my name is Alex Plant. I am also a reference and instruction librarian. Also got my start at NCU, but now we are all together here at National University.
So today we just a quick agenda. Well, we wanted to go over, we wanted to welcome you to the library first off, but we did want to go over what you can expect from us and hopefully what we can expect from you. Also research process, the research process basics, just some important foundational information you should know, and also a guide to the research resources that we have. So expectations. What can we expect from each other? What can you as students expect from library staff? So we're here to give you guidance and support for your research. And what does that mean exactly? Well, we can help you with your search strategy. We can help you with learning how to search. We can help navigate the library, how to access the resources and how to use them. We can also conduct searches for you. But there were a couple things I wanted to touch on just to clarify. This is two kind of common challenges that we have in the library when we work with students is sometimes there's an expectation that a student will have a really specific research topic and will be looking for resources that match that topic exactly, and sometimes that just does not. That the more specific you are in your topic, the less likely there will be a lot of results that are matching that topic, because we're relying on what has already been published, and it may not have been published. So just to keep in mind that we may not, you and us together may not be able to find exact matches on topics. And then the other note I just wanted to touch on was interpretation, the expectation about interpreting assignments. Unfortunately, we can't interpret assignments for you because we're not able to interpret the assignments because we don't have that expertise, the subject specific expertise, as well as we would not want to give you the wrong, we wouldn't want to give you the wrong answer on that. So if you have questions about, if you need clarification on your assignments, please ask your instructor about that. And that's all for
Yeah.
that.
Thanks, June. So I'll just like elaborate a little bit on the opposite side. So one of the things that we like to stress at the library is that it's a partnership with you, right? Much like it's a partnership with your colleagues, it's a partnership with your instructor. We really want to kind of continue to facilitate that. So you know now a little bit about what our expectation is when you guys come into the library, but now what should you expect, right, from this partnership, this two-way street? So what are we as librarians going to provide to you when you come in seeking assistance from us? Well, one is communication, right? So we are going to respond to you, whether it's an email, a phone call, a chat, right? An after hours text message. Those all come into us. It is human beings, right? So it's myself and my lovely colleagues at the library who receive that, and we will get back to you. So if you are in a live conversation with us, if we're on the phone with you, if you set up a one-on-one research consultation, we're going to be active and engaged, right? We're going to address the questions that you have. We're going to, hopefully allay any kind of anxieties that you might have. And, we want it to be a very open and flowing conversation. So we'll definitely ask you questions. And when you talk to us, you will definitely, be expecting a response back. Similarly, right, we're going to engage with you. So we are going to be actively looking for articles. We're going to be looking for databases. We're going to be looking for all kinds of other resources to assist you in whatever the starting point, right, that you have when you engage, when you come to us, right? So some folks come to us and they're very much at the beginning of this process. Maybe it's been a couple of years since you've been to school and this is your first class and you need a little bit more of a refresher on how to use research tools. Some folks come to us and they have a fully fleshed out idea. They're already deep into their dissertation research and they're looking for, like June said, something very specific. So, we need to plug a hole in the literature review, or we're looking to, exhaust literature, or we're looking for some kind of gray literature. I really want to, find evidence of X, right? So some folks come right with those much more fleshed out ideas. And what our job is as librarians is to really understand where you are. And we only get that from really knowing what it is that you're bringing to the table and what you're hoping to kind of leave the table with. And something that we want to, again, kind of give to you, right? This expectation, right? Is that we are thinking about, and you will hear this periodically, people will say things like, get familiar with the literature or get familiar on the topic, right? So what we're looking for, right, or what we're going to stress along with your instructor, along with, our peers at places like Academic Success Center and CTL and, the various coaches and mentors that you're going to be engaging with is that research isn't like a one-stop shop. It's not like you come in once to chat or you come in for a research consultation once and that's the extent of your research, but instead that it's an iterative process. It's an immersive process. And so sometimes you'll come in and you'll be talking to us for an hour and you might have more questions, right, than you came in with, right? And you might leave with a stack of articles and some books and some things that you're going to get through, interlibrary loan. And that's going to be the bulk of, the work that you're doing for that week is sort of reading through and kind of maybe refining your topic, right? Or the questions that you're asking. So we're also going to be a partner in sort of pushing back on you to say, hey, maybe what you need to do is get yourself immersed in this topic, really understand what the question is and the background information and where, this question is coming from to be able to, really sort of get very specific in the next time that you interact with us in that research process. So yeah, I think we can move on to the next slide here.
Thank you, Alex. All right. Any questions, by the way, before we
Yeah.
move on? Any questions?
Not at this time, no.
Thanks,
Okay,
Emily.
thank you. Okay, so some just foundational principles for starting your research, and just good tips for you to be aware of when you're starting your research. So let's say you are just beginning. You'll be using the library search engine, i.e. Roadrunner, to do your research to access scholarly studies. But those studies are very technical, very scientific, and maybe you aren't at the point where you even want to see those studies yet because you're still figuring out what your topic will be. So a great place to go is for this information is our reference databases. There's two in particular. There's Credo Reference, and then I believe it's Sage Knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Let me show you where they are. So if you go to the library homepage, there's A to Z databases, and if you click on S for Sage, it's Sage Knowledge. You'll have to sign in if you're not already signed in to NCU1. And you'll just enter in your search terms, and it's going to link you to, what was this morning? Had a question earlier. So you can type in your topic and search for, I won't go too far into this because it's a whole other workshop, like to navigate a single database, but basically you can filter for the format, and it's just going to link you to a lot of, it'll link you to videos, encyclopedias, books, regular books. Books are a better source of information for introductory information or like historical information to get a broad picture before you zero in on your topic. So that's Sage Knowledge found in A to Z databases. Credo Reference as well is similar, and you can use that to link out to reference materials from various sources. Credo Reference is also recommended for locating scholarly definitions. So going back to the slides here, oops, I've lost my place. And then when you begin searching, probably the most important concepts you'll want to keep in mind are developing your keywords. And when so you formulated a topic and you're ready to search for that topic, just keep in mind that the library search engine does not understand natural language, so you can't ask it the type of question, a long sentence. You can't enter in a sentence like you would in Google. You do have to pinpoint your relevant keywords, and also please be aware that when you might start off with a few keywords and discover more as you start your search. You'll see similar in the readings, you'll see similar keywords that you might want to search. You'll also see the articles suggesting certain keywords for you. So keep that in mind. And then there's Boolean operators. You'll hear that a lot if you're in the library. And it's just a fancy, weird
Nobody else
word.
uses them. Nobody else uses them outside of the library.
Yeah, it's
This is where I
kind of
usually
funny.
this is where I usually joke around, Kim, and I'll say in my instruction, I'll say like they're very special words, words that nobody ever uses before. And
Yeah,
right.
they're kind of like they just sound so weird that they make you feel like what
Mhm.
confused, but they're
Yeah.
all they are they're just, I think it's named after a person, Boolean,
Yeah,
but
I think it is, but I always say like it's very, it's you're basically stringing words together to try and create a search query. And so, like I said, very crazy words that you've never heard before, and, or, and not, right? And what you're doing, is trying to link those words together in a way that computers will understand. So sorry, June, I had to make
Thank
my
you.
very silly joke before I let you go on.
No, thanks for pointing that out. It's just so simple, but much more simple than it sounds.
Yes.
So if you, for example, if you were researching strengths-based approach for at-risk youth, you'd want to break those up into different, you want to break up concepts into different search boxes and use the and operator. And there's much more that we won't go into now because that's another workshop, but we have the field codes that you select. There's phrase searching. There's rules, like simple rules to searching that will help you really narrow your search results and get a targeted result list that's not too long and has pretty much the relevant results for you. And there's tips that you can use to get that list. And we'll show you the workshop for that
Yeah.
a little
And
bit later.
why do we put them in quotes? Like, why would I put that in quotes? So is that what is that actually telling the computer?
It's
Or
telling the computer to find this exact phrase instead of looking for the words by themselves.
Mhm.
Because if it looked for individual words, you would just get thousands and thousands of results.
Oh, and one other question. Why wouldn't I put strength-based approach or at-risk youth? Why would I want to use and here?
Yes, because if you used or, then it would just find one of these or the other, but not both. But we want, in this case, we're looking for both concepts together. Try to think if you would ever use, I feel like or is rarely used.
I use or a lot. One of the things that I think or can do, and again, this is for research basics. You're always welcome to come meet with us one-on-one to get a real deep understanding of why you do that. But I've always explained it to students that if you're working within a field where there are multiple terms, meaning like multiple ways of describing something. So, for example, actually, at-risk youth might be something where you might want to use a couple different terms to refer to the population you're looking for, and so you might want to do like at-risk youth or and sort of fill in your additional keywords here, and that can just broaden the search. Whereas to June's point, and is typically what we like to search at the outset because we kind of want to narrow that really big concept into something to say, I need both of these ideas together. The or is just going to open it up a little bit. It's the most open you can get. I think not is the one that we probably don't use the most, right? I use
Yeah.
it in a very specific way, and it's very funny. But usually the way that I use it is for some reason. Well, I know the reason. We don't need to elaborate here. But when we put in a lot of search terms, sometimes we get like super specific medical articles, right? And we're not really interested in like cell division necessarily, and causes for depression, right? And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll say like not medicine, medical, biomechanics, you know what I mean? And I'll sort of put in those terms to make sure that I'm just getting things related to, say, psychology, right? And so that's another way that you might want to use that. So a little advanced, I think, but you guys are coming into graduate programs, so this is the type of mechanics that you might want to actually employ when you're getting started.
That's a great tip, Alex. A great reason or a use for the not operator. Yeah, to filter out the medical articles.
Yeah.
Also, I think you can also like.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
You can play around a little bit.
Yeah, you can use one box to enter in your similar terms and just type in or you can just use the drop down. There's more than one way to get to the same result.
Totally.
But that's a great tip. Let's see what else there is. I think that's it for searching. I mean, there's much more, but we're just giving you an overview at this point. And we'll show you where to get more information soon.
Emily, did you have a question? I do. I was hoping I could maybe pop in here real quick. I'm just on this pause right here. But one of the questions in the chat is, can we access databases like Statista or any other statistics databases through the library?
Yes, you can. That would be through the A to Z databases, which was over here from the home library page. You can go to click on A to Z databases, and then that will provide you a listing of all our databases alphabetized. You can, if you know which one you want, you can just go to the first letter of the database. S for Statista would be the last database listed, or maybe you don't have a specific database. You can filter by subject. If you're in education, it'll give you the best education databases.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question? Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, that's a really good question. A to Z databases we sometimes don't always talk about with our students right away, because it can be like a little bit like, oh, wait, I have to know the name of the database. But over time, right, and especially when you're in different courses, your professors, right, will just start to kind of refer to databases, and you might be familiar with some databases. So sometimes it can actually be a much easier pathway to just go right there and you say, okay, I know I want to use Sage. I know that I want to use Credo. I want to use Statista. I want to use, one of the EBSCO databases. You can just go right in there and pull it up. Yeah. Right. So I think we'll move on. So the way that we kind of shaped this is, the idea is, we start at the very top, which is like your very beginning process. So, immersing yourself in introductory information, where can you find that? And then trying to refine what your search is actually going to look like by, developing, the keywords, and then how is Boolean search going to help you? And then what we typically then do is we say to our students, once you sort of have that baseline, then maybe you want to start dipping your toe into the more scholarly articles. So one of the things that we realized in June, do you want to give me the share, or do you just want to share?
No, let me stop my screen share.
Cool. So we'll just do a A very clunky transfer of power here. Okay, so what we've noticed is when we're talking to our students, sometimes we'll say things like, oh, let's go to Roadrunner, or have you checked Roadrunner? And sometimes that doesn't translate. And so we forget sometimes as librarians, we're working so closely with things that we forget that our students might not have the same terminology for things. So what I wanted to introduce you guys here is your biggest and your best tool on the library page once you're starting to look for, more scholarly resources. And that is what we affectionately refer to as Roadrunner search. And what it really is just this big old search bar in the center here. You'll see that it's divided. There's actually 4 different tabs here, and Roadrunner search is just this first tab. So for anybody who's done any kind of searching, either in a library or, dare I say it, Google, this will look very familiar to you. It has got a search bar, but there's a couple of additional features here. So one thing I know that students are always looking for is, how can I get a scholarly article? And one of the nice features that we have on this search is that you can jump right into the vast majority of our databases are connected to this search function here. So what you can start to do is you can start to type in keywords, right? So I might look for, here's my social isolation, right? And I want only scholarly or peer-reviewed journals, and I'm going to leave it on keyword. And the reason I'm going to tell you to leave it on keyword is that keyword is going to look for the term social isolation in every facet of the article, right? So it's going to look in the title, it's going to look in the abstract, and it's going to look in the actual text of the article. And you don't want to necessarily restrict it to something like title, because then you're just going to be looking for this term in the title. So let's keep our net open wide and hit submit. Again, I will have to sign in. I guess it kicked me out of everything when I when I got prepared for this. And so what will happen is you will see lots and lots of articles, right? You're going to see almost, what is that? 380,000 plus articles where social isolation is a keyword somewhere in there. So just like June was saying, sometimes this can be an overwhelming amount of information at the beginning of your search. And it's why we typically tell students to go here after they have some idea of what they're interested in reading more about, because this can feel very overwhelming. But there's a couple of things that you can do to kind of stem the overwhelm. One is to come prepared with some keywords, right? I just put in a sample keyword here. But come prepared with some keywords that you can kind of play around with. And then there's a couple of stipulations, right? You want to make sure, we've already searched for scholarly articles. So if you come over here into the refining side, you'll notice that scholarly or peer-reviewed, right, is another term that you'll commonly see used for these types of articles. You'll see that that's already selected. But another stipulation, right, is for a lot of students, you're going to want recent, okay, articles. And so what we've done here is there's a couple of things you can do. You can either adjust the publication year here, or you can choose one of these predetermined buckets, right? So last 5 years, right, might be something that you've indicated as you need to have the most up-to-date research, right, for your dissertation. So you can go right away and sort of adjust it to starting in 2017. You can also, continue to refine it if you are interested in looking for a particular journal, right? Again, if you know the name of a particular journal, you want to see just results from there. You can refine it by subject, right? So you can sort of add on some additional search parameters. Language is actually a shocking one that I feel like we don't talk about enough, but here you can actually limit articles to your preferred language, right? So for me, that would be English. So I could actually come in here and select English. But for some of you, right, you might have secondary and even tertiary languages, right? Or what I should really be saying is your primary language is maybe not English. And so you might be interested in seeing what scholars whose native language is Spanish, right? They might be writing. And so you can actually change that. to sort of open up your available resources. Maybe, you can read in Spanish and English. So that's kind of how you use Roadrunner. Roadrunner is also going to be, just so you know, Roadrunner is also going to be where we as librarians typically go first when you start working with us. So when you come to us either via chat, which I'll actually show you in just a moment, or when you want to set up a consultation with us, typically we're going to this first. And then once we've sort of exhausted this, we might go into the more specific databases to kind of, really try and target specifically what it is that you're talking about. So just like you guys, we're coming in here all the time and working on refining any questions that our students have for us. So I believe, June, that was everything I wanted to say about Roadrunner, and I'm just gonna stop my share if you want to pop back into the presentation. Cool. And then a really big thing that I wanted to kind of touch on here, especially if you are newer to this process, and I've got you in front of me so I can get up on my, what do they call it? My soapbox a little bit. And that is all about being organized as a student, right? It shouldn't surprise you that the librarian is telling you to be organized. We do. I will say that that is a trait of ours that we do have. That's kind of standard to us. But once you've started to gather this information, right? If you've been listening, right, we're actually kind of walking you through how you're developing a like a starter set for your research. So where are you getting that introductory information? What are those search terms that you're using? The successful ones, the unsuccessful ones, also good to know. The different search strings that you've tried out that have worked or not worked. And then now you're in Roadrunner where you're actually starting to get scholarly resources, okay? The thing that you're going to want to do here is press pause and say to yourself, now I need to start organizing all of this information. And so we have a couple of suggestions for you here. So one thing would be to just save your articles, right? So in a lot of cases, our databases will have many different tools for you to use. You can either email yourself a link to the article. If you're more comfortable kind of having a hard copy, quote unquote, you could download a PDF and save it on your desktop. Maybe you create a folder on your desktop for, articles or maybe different chapters of your dissertation. That might be something you do. You might have another third party like Evernote or Google that you're using to save your articles. But once you find articles that are somewhat relevant, right, start to save those, okay? Because it will be really important. You might lose access to them. You might, forget what the title was of that one article that you really liked. And if you don't save anything, either the physical copy or even just a citation, you're going to be very frustrated in the future. So the other thing that you can start to get used to is what's called like a research log. And this is really just it's almost like a debrief of your brain, at the end of a day that you've spent doing some research, kind of writing down what was successful, what did you find, and where you might want to go use it, right? So some of you might have experiences with things like annotated bibliographies. I actually think annotated bibliographies are a really great sort of entry into a research log, because an annotated bibliography, if you don't know what they are, it's essentially you've captured the citation information for an article or a book or a video, and then you've kind of written a little blurb about why it was important to you and where you think you might use it. That's like, if you want to just sort of create an ongoing annotated bibliography, that's a really good starting point for your research log. And we actually provide access to a citation capture service called RefWorks. So as being a student here gives you access to this. I believe it's a ProQuest tool. ProQuest is one of the databases that we have a lot of them, or we have access to a lot of them through the library. And so what RefWorks does is it's essentially like a it's a piece of, not a piece of software, it's in the cloud, but it's a platform that you can use as a student to save your citations as you're reading. And there's these nice little tools and add-ons where you can sort of just click a button and say, I want to save this article, I want to save, this this title here. And it all gets collected into your RefWorks account. So, if the idea of sort of creating something on your own is a little bit daunting and you just feel like you'd rather use a tool, we have access to RefWorks. So that's definitely something that you can check out. We offer a RefWorks Power Hour. There's also extensive, videos and tutorials that RefWorks has that we link to on our website. So if you have questions about getting started with RefWorks, we can absolutely help you do that. But at the very minimum, just make sure that you're saving those articles somewhere so that you can reference them. All right, I think we're good to move on. Any questions at the end of this slide? Any specific questions here?
So I was just going to wait just a moment to see if something pops up.
Okay, yeah.
And sometimes the questions linger just a tad bit after you finish your thought there. So,
that's okay. Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to pause here and then we'll come back to it. I will
Okay.
turn on my camera and interrupt you if
That's okay.
Appropriate. Okay, Alex.
Yeah.
Oh, hold up.
Nope,
Hold up.
it's free.
Question. Yes.
It's free as a student.
Great question, Thomas. And I'm just going to say it out loud just so for the recording purposes, asking if there's a fee for RefWorks. RefWorks is a free service to you as a student at the university.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for now, Alex.
Cool. Awesome.
All right, let's go to the last portion of the webinar. And this is going to be, is there another question?
I see a Q&A. Yeah.
Let's see.
Indeed. Okay.
Oh, that's a very specific question.
So we'll
about
wait until
RefWorks.
the end.
Yes.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry, Catherine. We'll save that for the end. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so for research resources, we just wanted to make you aware of some events and resources that you can use to access more information. Since we've only really given you an overview. So we can look at the LibGuides. I'll go over the LibGuides and videos. Let me go back to the library here. All right, so back to the library homepage. If you go under the research help link on the top menu bar, you can access. So this guide, it's called the Research Process Guide, and it's probably the most used library guide. It's just basically a guide that a librarian has created, and it includes everything about the research process categorized here on the left. This tab is really useful. It's going to help you to give you information on how to access statistics, maybe, or maybe you're looking for gray literature, how to access the primary and secondary resources. There's a lot here that you can use. If you're working on your dissertation, there's a guide on a sub-guide on how to find your theoretical frameworks, how to find your research method and design, or your test and measurements for your dissertation. Another popular or useful informational tab here is preparing the search. And we do provide a research log here if you would like to use this template. Let's see what it looks like. I
think
don't
it's
remember.
it's a download.
Yeah, you have to download it. It's a Word document. And yeah. So you can use this template if you want. It will give you an option to fill in the important information that you're gathering from your research. Let's go back to page here. The LibGuide, I mean. And again, under the Preparing to Search tab, you'll find information on the different search techniques that Alex and I were mentioning earlier, the Boolean operators and all the other search techniques you can use to get your best results. So this entire page is the research process guide. Please bookmark it. It's really valuable. In terms of other guides, there's subject guides that are also a really great place for you to explore at the start of your research. If you go to research help again, this time instead of going to research process, go to library guides. And if you click on that link, you'll see we have 144 guides. You can filter by the subject. So if you are an education student, there are 49 research guides under education, specific subtopics. So a librarian has created, let's see, diversity in education. A librarian has basically curated resources for you. They've chosen the best resources for your topic and put them all in one place for you. So if you're wondering what databases you should use in your education research, they're listed here: journals, news, magazines. What books, what are some critical books for you to explore in your research? There's dissertations, videos. It's just a great place to get a good introduction to your topic, not an introduction to your topic, an introduction to the resources for your topic. So yes, these are subject guides, and there are many of them in the library. Feel free to explore them. One more time, you would go to research help, library guides, and then filter by subject. The videos, so we have information in all types of formats. So maybe some of you would rather read, maybe some would rather watch a video. So if you enjoy learning through video, we do have several. So library homepage, you're at the library homepage. We have these under Learn the Library. We have recorded library workshops, ranging from specific database workshops. Maybe you only want to know about business databases or education. These have been recorded so you can watch them at your convenience. The Searching 101 workshop is very useful for when you are first starting when you need that intro to researching. This would be a great resource, this video, Searching 101. And then the dissertation ones are listed below it. Within the dissertation videos, we have finding a literature gap, finding systematic reviews, finding seminal research. It's a very extensive list. I think it covers pretty much anything you would need to know about research. There's quick start videos as well if you just want to get a shortened version of tutorials. You can also browse these. Search like an expert. It's similar to the searching 101, I believe, but shorter.
Mhm.
So that's where you would access the videos. And then I think I can hand it over back to you, Alex. Let's see. Or are there questions, or are we going to save the questions
I think
for
we'll
after?
save the I think we'll save the questions for just at the end, since this is the last slide that we have.
Okay.
But yeah, so thanks, June. LibGuides, videos, they are super helpful. But sometimes you want to get in front of a person, right? Kind of like you're doing today, where you're hearing us talk to you live. Sometimes it just feels better to see us talking live. You can ask your questions in real time. And so we offer live assistance as well. So June, would you mind just giving me back the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So, oh, come on, there we go. So we will come back here to the library page. So first and foremost, one of the things that we wanted to make you aware of is that every month we put on several live events or workshops, you can think of them, on a bunch of different topics. I know June and I both do at least one a month. I'm pretty sure June might actually do more than one a month. I only do one a month, but there's lots of different topics. And the way that you can find out when there is an upcoming event, well, one is obviously through NCU One. NCU Commons is where you can kind of see on our page. We have all of our upcoming events. But if you happen to actually be on the library website, you can go to Services, Library Events. And just like we're doing today, we also record, our sessions. So that's where we get kind of like our video workshops from. But if you want a live version, you can see we always have a library orientation. That's a really good one, I think, for all new students to take. We have some kind of like fun ones, right? So Google for School, right? I'm sure you've heard, in previous iterations, like Google is bad, no Google for, doing schoolwork, but that's not totally true, right? Test and measurements, office hours. So anything that's like an office hour, right? That's really intended for like a come and bring your questions, right? And the librarian who's hosting it will help, will be able to help you, with your questions. For anybody interested in getting started with RefWorks, right? We've got a power hour here, which is actually being led by the one and only June. So you can sign up for that by clicking register for a reminder, and you'll fill it out the way that you have filled out any kind of like Zoom webinar reminders. Probably you did the same thing for this webinar. So you can do that and kind of stack your schedule a little bit with some live sessions with a librarian. And don't worry if you miss it. We repeat these a couple times a year. Like I said, I have one that I do monthly. We have library orientations multiple times a week, right? So if you miss it, it's not gone forever. It might just be, next month, or you can always ask us for a recorded version, and we'll likely be able to send you to a recorded version. So those are the library events. They're really workshops, but they're called events in the system that we use. So please do come and attend those, especially the dissertation toolbox sessions. Those are led by a librarian named Amanda Bizet, and they get into the deep inner workings of doing your dissertation. Basically, it's like a step-by-step guide at each point of your research process. So anything that says dissertation toolbox on it, sign up for that. And again, a lot of those are actually recorded. So just to be super clear about that, under recorded library workshops, if you go down a little bit more, here's where you'll find all those dissertation toolboxes. That sounded funny. All the dissertation toolbox videos is what I mean to say. So here, they're all listed here, and you'll hear a little bit about, or you'll be able to read a little bit in this first sentence. So definitely check those out. And then what we wanted to leave you on today is okay, now we've given you a lot of information about how you can sort of like DIY, do it yourself, get started, come to the library with some level of preparation, right? Because that's a little bit of our expectation. And then how do you actually meet with us if you want to meet with a librarian one-on-one? Because we really want to, work with you and really, help you guys succeed. So there's two things I'd like to point out. Many of you have probably used the chat option. So down here under live help, we are available. Here are the days and the hours that we are available online. The best questions to ask us on chat are those types of like quicker answers. How do I find this? Somebody mentioned this in class. I'm having trouble accessing this article, right? Those are sort of like more quicker reference questions. You could also ask a question like, hey, I just need a couple of search terms to kind of get started, or I'm struggling with a search. Here's what I'm using, any suggestions? But for those bigger, meatier questions that you have, like real big research question, like, I need to get started on my literature review, right? That's not necessarily something that's going to be best addressed in a chat. You can absolutely come in a chat, and ask those questions. I certainly don't want to dissuade you from that, but that might be a time where it's actually worth setting up some one-on-one time with a librarian to actually work with us one-on-one and have us actually come prepared to that meeting so that we have something that we can share with you. So if you want to chat with us, click on this button. If you want to just email us, you can obviously also email us. But if you want to meet with us one-on-one, you'll come over here to the left-hand side of the page and click book an individual appointment. And we've got a couple of options for you. So what I've mostly been talking about are research consultations. Those are for students who are working on dissertation work, right? So you're at a particular step in your research process for your dissertation. This is really a chance to kind of reach out to us, let us know what you're working on, let us know where you're stuck or where you need to, maybe find some literature to fill the gaps, and we will come to that meeting with you prepared. So we might have pulled some articles, we will have found some specific databases, maybe some other resources that you weren't necessarily thinking about. So again, this is just going to be a form that you fill out. And one thing that I'd like to point out about this is, I'm just going to say no preference. One thing is these do require at least 3 days to book out. So if you need like an immediate appointment, we might not be able to serve you for that. But if you know that you want to start working on your research, it's worth booking this a little bit farther in advance so that we can prepare for you. I'm not going to go through every single search field or every single field here, but what I am going to say is the more information that you can give us about what you're interested in, maybe you upload a chapter of your dissertation, maybe you share some feedback that your instructor or your chair gave you, maybe you share a couple of example articles that you liked and you'd like to find more of them. The more information that you can share with us, the better our meeting is going to be. All of our meetings happen on Zoom. What will happen once you set this up, once you fill out all this information and confirm your appointment, is that you'll get a confirmation email that will include the Zoom link, okay? So that will be the link that you go to and you can actually meet with us on our specific date. If you need to cancel, because it does happen, we do just like to know that you're canceling. So in that email, there will be a little button that you can press if you need to reschedule or just cancel. So definitely, do that. If we could, go back to the little bit of expectations, it's just nice to let us know if you're not going to show up, because what we can then do is we can offer to, send you the work that we did so that you have something to look over. And in some cases, you might actually prefer to have a recorded consultation, which is also an option instead of having a live one-on-one. That is another option, of course, that you can have. Of course, it brought me all the way back to the main page, not the not the page I wanted to go to. So if you wanted to, for example, if you had to miss that and you decided, you know what, a recorded video research consultation, not the same as a one-on-one, but, still an option for you, you have the option to do that down there. And there's usually, June, what is it? Is it a 3-day turnaround usually for those recorded sessions?
Yes,
No?
3
Okay.
days.
Yes. So another option. Now, what if you're not yet in the midst of your dissertation research? Does that mean that you're not able to meet with us one-on-one to get your research questions answered? Absolutely not. We have an option for you. They're called Research Smart sessions or getting started sessions. And you set them up the exact same way that you set up for a research consultation, except that the expectation is a little bit different, right? In this session, what we're going to be doing is almost think of it as like a little bit more of like a one-on-one research or reference instruction. So this would be ideal for students that are coming back into the academic space, right? You might have some very specific questions about what are the types of databases that I can use. What is a LibGuide? I'm really concerned about, reading a scholarly article. Do you guys have some, suggestions or tips, right? Those are the types of questions that you can bring to this session, and you get to work with a librarian one-on-one to get those questions and those concerns addressed. So it's a really nice way to meet us, right? Because then we build a relationship and you can email us and chat with us. And we really love to get to know you guys as you continue on your, academic journey. One of the nicest things, I haven't gotten one yet, but my peers have. In fact, somebody, one of our librarians just this past week got a really lovely note from a student who successfully defended their dissertation, and they wrote a really lovely thank you, basically saying like, couldn't have done it without the library. And so we want to be that to you guys. So meet with us, set up consultations with us, come in to chat, call us on the phone. We really want to be there to help you guys and to direct you in the best way that we can. So I will just go ahead and stop my share now. And I think the only last slide we had was really a thank you slide. So maybe you just want to put that up, Kim. It's got our emails on it in case anybody wants to email us. And then I could see that there were some chats coming through, so I'm not sure if those were questions.
Yeah, there were a couple of chats that did.
Sure.
Oh, sorry, I froze for a second. There were a couple
No,
of
you're
chats
there.
that did come through.
Mhm.
One piece was a question about the consultations only
Sure.
done during the weekday.
No,
And
there are
then
weekends. There are weekends.
June did respond. Consultations are generally during the week.
There are
But
handfuls on the weekend, right?
handfuls.
There's
Okay.
individual librarians that opt to do that. So I know one of them will do Sundays.
Okay. Okay.
There's also early morning, because for
Okay.
somebody like me who's on the East Coast, I can offer a 5 a.m. PST
Right.
time. So and for any East Coasters, right, I can offer before work, right? So I think my hours are, if we convert it to East Coast, I think it's 8 to 11 a.m. is when I usually offer research consultations.
Wonderful. And then the other piece was a question that popped up. I think it has to do with, I'm going to read this one and we'll see what you think. But I think it has to do with, it had to do with the article saving in the folder. And then there was a follow-up question about how it's in Roadrunner. So I'm just going to let that be and see if June can answer that as well too. Don't forget that if you have questions about other kind of research strategies, we do have a bank of some webinars, as well as the librarians do have some of those as well too. So I know someone had a question about RefWorks earlier.
Yes.
We do have a pretty cool little webinar that we have under the CTL that was done by one of our librarians about how to use RefWorks. I'm just going to pop that in the chat.
Oh, thank you, Emily.
Yeah, I just thought, hey, it might be something someone would want to use. And then I don't see any other questions right now that have popped up.
I think if I'm understanding the folder question, and June, you can correct me if I'm misunderstanding it, but the folder question about Roadrunner, I think I can probably answer that pretty quickly, just visually, if that individual would like me to do that. So if
Let me stop my share.
No, I've got my share going now. Don't worry.
Okay.
So now sometimes, full disclosure, Sometimes it's not working, and it's not us, it's EBSCO. That's not working. But if you wanted to share something or save it, right? What you could do is, well, a couple of things. One, up here under share, there's like a little drop down here. You can you can actually save this whole link, right? So what's really cool about this is if you copy and paste this permalink, you will just come back to this search. So that's one. You can actually email, set up an email alert. I think this is what one of the part of that question was. You can actually set up, oh man, is it going to work today? Yes, it is going to work today. Look at that. So it's going to be an email alert for anything, right, that comes in from this search, right? So let's say a new article gets published to one of these databases and it falls into this search parameter, you'll get like an email alert to let you know. Now, it doesn't always mean that it's relevant. It just means that it's falling into that search parameter. So you might want to adjust it, right, to a frequency that makes more sense. Maybe you don't want it once a day. Maybe you want it once a week, right? Because maybe it's a little more digestible to get a weekly download. So that's one, I believe that's one part of one question. And then another question was saving it to like a folder.
Okay, yes, that's the one.
Right. So that again, it's you're self-selecting to do this. So when you click onto something and you want to add to a folder, you can actually click add to a folder, and then it's going to be your folder up here. Okay, so in order to access all of those articles that you've saved, you're going to have to be logged in, right? And basically be able to access Roadrunner in order to get into that. So that's Roadrunner. RefWorks, I will stop at trying to explain that one.
Thank you so much, Alex. That was so nice to
Thank you,
spend
Alex.
the time to show that quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to thank our attendees for their questions that they've had today. As June and Alex have mentioned, yes, they are here to be a resource for you. And so while this was an introductory level into some of the research ideas and how to navigate the library, there are many tools out there for you. So don't hesitate to reach out. That is what we are here for. And I want to thank you, June and Alex, for taking the time to come to present today. We appreciate you. And until the next time, I hope everybody has a great rest of their day.
Thank you so much for
Thank you so
having us.
much.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.